Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we will be discussing one of the more controversial brawlers in the game in Bo. Bo has had several moments throughout the game's lifecycle where he has been meta, but every time in which that has been the case, he has been a very volatile brawler. Whether it was through enabling cheese comps with his original super totem gadget, having almost unreactable mines with his pre-nerf tripwire gadget, or even just dealing way too much damage back when his base attack dealt a combined 4.2k damage. Pretty much every time Bo has had to be nerfed back down because his mechanics were very unhealthy for the game. So although some might say all he needs to be meta again is a small buff or a hypercharge, I don't think they will get past Bo's initial problem in that right now his kit is too toxic to be good. So I felt he was definitely deserving of a rework. To start off, I want to go over exactly what Bo's role in the game is so he can enhance it with the redesigning of his kit. With decent health, damage, and range, we see that Bo is the definition of versatility. Not being too strong in any one factor, but always contributing something to the team. This is further seen through his gadgets and star powers, as each is made to add another layer to Bo's gameplay. Both of his gadgets add a more supportive playstyle to his gameplay, with his super totem being able to give both himself and teammates increased supercharge in the area. And although his tripwire gadget can be used more aggressive to try to bait out the opponents, most of the time it is used to quickly open up the map for longer range teammates, or to push back thrower opponents. Both of his star powers add a much more defensive or controller based boost to his kit, one providing enhanced vision to keep you alert of sneaky assassins and tanks in the grass, and the other adding a stun to his mines to make them much better traps. Another underlying theme of his kit is that he has one gadget and star power that will always find value, and then two that will find value in certain situations. So with all this in mind, I would say Bo's kit design can be best described as an all-arounder build. It is clear that he is meant to be a kind of beginner development brawler, to teach things such as super timing, area denial, super placement, map changes through wall or grass breaks, and shot variation. So when it comes to how I want to rework his kit, I actually feel his core mechanics are fine. The shots and mines are decently unique for an epic brawler, while also helping to solve his role in the game. And although his mines are a bit more toxic at lower levels, and a bit more useless at higher levels of play, I feel like that's predominantly because of his star power. And again, a damage buff would not really be feasible in my opinion, as last time that happened, his main attack broke the meta. So instead, I want to focus in on changing all his star powers and gadgets, while also giving him my own personal mythic gear and hypercharge. To start off, I actually want to make some of his current abilities baseline to preserve some of his uniqueness and utility. For this rework, I don't want current Bobanes to feel like he's being completely changed from what he was before. So to avoid making them feel like he was gutted, I have implemented both star powers into his kit at weaker levels. To start off, Bo would now have the circling eagle trait. This trait allows the brawler to see twice as far in bushes, effectively increasing his vision from 2 tiles to 4. This is overall a 1 tile decrease from the current star power. Next, his mines will now always stun opponents, but this stun only lasts 1.5 seconds instead of the current 2 seconds. As for his gadgets, I will actually be completely scrapping the super totem gadget, as I don't think there's a way to have balanced levels of value with it. It has always been either too weak or too cheesy, so it is the only part of his kit that I will be completely removing. As for the tripwire gadget, it will actually be incorporated in a slightly different way when we get to his new star powers. But for now, let's discuss Bo's new gadgets. To start off, I wanted Bo to have a much more simpler gadget that will also be very consistent for newer players. And when I thought about it, I realized that I always see newer players wasting their supers by putting them in horrible places. So I felt like giving those players a second but weaker chance to do better would make him feel a lot easier and fun to use, similar to Buzz. This led to Bo's emergency mine gadget. When activated, Bo instantly charges his super and gains a singular weaker mine. This mine only deals 2k damage and only stuns for 1 second. This mine placement is also completely independent to his other mines, so it won't replace or be replaced by them. Think of it like Mr. P portals. It also cannot be activated while your super is already charged. Another key highlight of this gadget that I really wanted to add to Bo's kit was more area control. Yeah, a singular mine against good players is really going to get a lot of value, but being able to throw out 3 mines in one direction and then gadget to get another one somewhere else can go a long way to help trap opponents and then also slow down pushes. As for his other gadget, I wanted to lean more into Bo's versatility role. If the other one was to enhance his role as a controller, similar to how his tripwire was, I wanted this one to allow him to play the role of another archetype similar to Super Totem, which gave him supporting abilities. So for this, I went with giving Bo artillery capabilities with the weighing down gadget. For the next 5 seconds, Bo's main attack will shoot into the air and over walls. This will deal the same amount of damage as his regular main attack, and instead of spreading, it will deal an AoE damage in the same area with each arrow. Think of a smaller Larry and Laurie radius, but with Bo's range. I thought this would go a long way in helping Bo win his matchups on more closed-in maps, while also making him just way more versatile against most opponents. The ideal situation with this gadget would be to throw your super in a singular choke point, so your opponents end up trapped in the back of the map, and then you activate this gadget to deal damage to them while they cannot push up to attack you back. This does have its drawbacks though, as for those 5 seconds he would be way more susceptible to assassins and tanks. But now moving on to the star powers, I wanted one to follow the trend that we've been seeing from all new brawlers, and one being more offensive and another being more defensive. So starting with the more offensive one, we have the revamped tripwire gadget and the blazing heart star power. It never made sense to me why Bo's mines just disappear if you replace them, so now with this star power, placing down a new set of mines will cause the previous ones to trigger after 1.5 seconds. In some cases I can see the argument for this holding Bo, as you might not always want to open up the map, so forcing your mines to explode might be worse, but overall I feel like outside of the modes like Brawl and Hot Zone, his mines were really getting too much value. So with this star power, it at least guarantees some value from each mine. As for his more defensive star power, I wanted something that would help Bo in one of his main struggles, competing as a middle lane pick. Most of the time, other brawlers just provide a lot more damage or range for that slot, so Bo is often overlooked. So I wanted Bo to be a more underrated pick with this star power, as it would help him fill that same role in a slightly different way. And that brought me to the Harmonious Soul star power. After not taking damage for 5 seconds, Bo gains 1 stack of Harmonious Soul, each stack giving 300 HP. The timer is reset if Bo takes damage, and all stacks are lost upon death. At the time of recording this, a new brawler Kenji was just released with a star power very similar to this. It was just very unfortunate that I came up with this idea around the same time as this brawler's release, but you can't really do anything now. So back to my explanation. The reason why I went with this 300 HP was primarily because I was comparing it to Wolf's star power, which gives 30 HP a second. So I felt like over 5 seconds being able to gain double the amount you would from Wolf's, but only getting it if you didn't take damage was a fair trade-off. Overall, I felt this star power would give Bo more of a presence in the match, as players who are good enough to juke shots will be able to get a lot of stacks and make Bo just become a semi-tank in the match. One example being, even with just 3 stacks in a shield gear, you would now be facing off against a 9k HP Bo. And overall, I felt like this would be pretty solid, but not too broken. But now on to the final part of the video, where I'll be giving Bo my own personal concepts for both a mythic gear and hypercharge. For his mythic gear, I came up with the snailed gear. With this gear, it's pretty simple. All of Bo's stuns would now last 33% longer. For those players who really just like his current stun duration, Bo's mines with this gear will go back to regular and being 2 seconds. And at the same time, his new emergency mine gadget will have its stun increased from 1 second to 1.33 seconds. Definitely decent, but at the highest levels of play, I feel like this gear wouldn't get very little value. And finally, now onto his hypercharge. Just due to the fact Bo is already getting several changes from my previous concepts, I wanted his hypercharge to be more simplistic in design, so I went with the Nature's Guidance hypercharge. Bo's next super now summons a tornado that pulls nearby opponents to the center of his 3 mines. Or, when using his one gadget, it will pull to the center of that one mine. Think of it like a tower pool. So unless that brawler has a jump like Angelo or Cordelius, his hypercharge would guarantee that it gets stunned by at least 1 mine from his hypercharge. It's very simplistic in design, like as I said before, but I feel like it would definitely be useful for a brawler like Bo. But that is about all I have for this Bo Rework concept. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought about it and what other brawlers I should do in the future. Thank you for your time.